Hey everyone, welcome to That's Not Proper, and I'm your host, Corey Asuncion. Thank you for joining me today on That's Not Proper. In today's episode, does this social media make me look fat? Let me preface by saying I am not a licensed medical professional. I am just a woman who sometimes is observant, and when I notice something that is interesting, I dig and dig and dig. And that's what I did with this topic today. I want to address the idea that there's a possibility that we, especially as women, and I say that because I am a woman, and I've experienced this myself, so I can talk about it because it relates to things that I've gone through. But there are times where I wonder if we are sacrificing our mental, our spiritual, and our physical well being, as well as our personal relationships, for some idea that we have either been given or that we are creating for ourselves of a perfect physical outer appearance. And my desire is not to play the blame game. I'm sure we can point to times in our life or relationships in our life where we've maybe been with someone, or we have had a family member or a friend who is critical of our appearance, and those words have stuck with us. But I'm not really going to dig that deep. What I'm just noticing is something that pretty much all of us experience on a daily basis, and that's social media. I know that personally, it seems almost like a constant barrage of really what's unrealistic expectations for women and their outer appearance. And you can see it on Instagram, you can see it on Facebook, you're going to see it on Twitter, you're going to see it on the television, you're going to see it in TV shows and movies, and we're inundated with it. And there are times where even for myself, it's like I've been convinced that this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is what I should look like. This is what is pleasing to the eye. So therefore, it needs to be pleasing to my eye. So what happens then is I look at myself in the mirror, especially as I'm aging, and I look at, the things that were once perky and voluptuous, and now they're heading south and whatnot. And I'm thinking, this is no good anymore. I'm no good. I'm not sufficient any longer. So then I become preoccupied with it. I'm focused on it. I got to work out more. I got to eat, this way for a certain amount of time, or I got to get these pants because they make this look like that, and this bra because it does this to these. It's not finding contentment in what is mine. This is my body. This body looks like this for various reasons. And sure, it doesn't hurt to exercise and eat healthy. But I've also carried 7 children. I've nursed 6 of those children. This body has served me well. But you see, what happens when I start getting on myself like that is it spreads like a parasite, and I'm the host. It just spreads. It spreads to my family. It spreads to my work. It spreads to my relationships. It spreads to my mental health. It spreads to my physical health. It's like everything takes a dive. And I know that there are other women that experience this on a regular basis. And I'm not typically someone who struggles with depression or anxiety for extended periods of time. I tend to tell myself, I can't stay here, get up, move on. The only issue with that is that it returns, which to me means then that the root of it has not been addressed. Because if it keeps returning, then something hasn't been repaired. And in realizing this, I also consider what type of legacy I'd be leaving then for my children, my daughters, my grandchildren, my granddaughters, anybody who I'm in contact with. What am I teaching them if my personal focus is this? So then I was curious if there happened to be any correlation to the onset of social media in 2003 with MySpace, 2004 with Facebook, and so on, and medical procedures that were cosmetic that women were having, as well as an increase in medications for depression and anxiety. And what I found was kind of interesting. According to the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, in 2005, the data that was collected, since 1977 up until 2005, there had been an increase of 444% in the total number of cosmetic procedures. Surgical procedures had increased by 119%, non-surgical procedures by 726. It seems as though most of the time the non-surgical procedures were things like Botox. In addition to that, women accounted for 91.4% of the total. In 2018, Americans spent nearly $8.4 billion on procedures, and of those, 70% were Caucasian. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have definitely considered the idea of one day having something done. I'm not a real big fan of the girls pointing south. I'd rather them, west. Is that the direction they're supposed to go? So, in realizing that I have these feelings about myself and these struggles about my own personal body, and I know that sometimes when I'm looking on social media, I'll see pictures of whether it be famous people or even people I know, and I don't look the same. And I feel as though I'm inferior because I don't look the same or I don't have the same type of physical outer appearance that they may have. So, since I know I struggle with this, then what about young girls, teens, preteens, even younger than that? Things are a lot different now than they were when I was a kid. Man, when I was 8 years old, I was still, playing with dirt and Barbies, and boys were icky. And I don't see that as often with young girls anymore. It's a whole different world. And I totally age myself when I say things like that. At any rate, what I was noticing is that there seems to be a lot more issues that I hear about with regards to girls that are in the, preteen to high school age range. And it made sense to me because they're just a lot more impressionable. They don't have the same experiences that an older woman may have who can, reject the idea that is surrounding her by society telling her that she has to be something or not. But the thing is they're just a lot more impressionable. So I thought, I wonder, in addition to when I'm looking up these things like the statistics for all of this plastic surgery and how there was an uptick around the time that social media became a thing and how it literally is increasing every year. And so I wondered then, what's going on with the young girls that are seeing this, that are watching their moms, that are watching their sisters, their aunts, whatever, that are watching the women on social media platforms. And I'm wondering, how are they feeling? How are they adjusting to all of this? So I did some research, and my concerns were somewhat confirmed. Now, I wouldn't say, first and foremost, I do not believe that social media causes depression and anxiety and an uptick in the prescription medications for depression and things like that. I don't think Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all of that, I don't believe that it actually causes these things, but there is definitely a correlation to these things and the way that we respond to them. And so I found this study, and it's on childmind.org, and it was an article. This article written by Caroline Miller was questioning whether or not social media caused depression. And they noted in the article that they don't believe necessarily that social media is causing depression, which I tend to agree with, but that there is definitely a correlation to it. And what they also had noted was in 2017, there was a study of over 500,000 8th through 12th graders. And it found in that study that there were high levels of depressive symptoms that increased by 33% between 2010 and 2015. And during that same time, the suicide rate for girls in that age group increased by 65%. What they also had noted was that smartphones were introduced around 2007, and by 2015, 92% of teens and young adults owned a smartphone. And the common thread in majority of these different articles that I was reading was that we as a society do not communicate face to face anymore. We don't really know how to hold conversations very well. We don't know how to communicate with one another. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that all of our communication occurs now on these tiny little handheld computers. I know that I'm guilty of spending a whole heck of a lot of time staring at that tiny little computer that I love. I love gadgets. I love electronics. I love those things. So yeah, I really enjoy spending time. And I know that there are times where I'm staring at that when I probably could be doing something else, like interacting with the rest of my family. Recently, we went camping, and it was funny because normally at my house, if someone can't be on the computer or the television or the PlayStation or on their cellular device or whatever, they're borderline losing it. But we went camping and we were gone for 3 or 4 days, and we had no access to data or Wi-Fi or anything. It was almost pointless to even have your cell phone. I think we used them to play music through the Bluetooth little thing we've got. But other than that, there was no use for it. And I did not hear one complaint. No one said they even missed it. We all hung out and had a good time. It was kind of interesting to see how something as simple as just going on a camping trip, they didn't even realize it was gone during that time. I don't believe this means then that we need to take away all devices and things like that from our kids or from ourselves even. I just believe that it means we need to take the time to consider what we do with every moment of our day. And if in those moments we could be spending time with our kids or our spouses or our partners or just friends in general, coming together to communicate and understand one another instead of learning everything and communicating just via these devices. They can be used for really great, wonderful things. But I do see, like I've said with these statistics I shared earlier, that there is a correlation there. We are seeing the world through this image on this little device that is giving us poor information of reality. The idea of betterment is always good, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. Betterment is always obviously better, hence the word betterment. But the thing is if we are for ourselves choosing to quote unquote better ourselves, and in that process, we are sacrificing loyalty and kindness, our own actual health, and the health of others, which includes emotional and mental health, then is it really betterment? To me, that seems like the antithesis of betterment and health. The idea of physical perfection, outer body on the outside, physical perfection is subjective. What may be perfect for me may not be perfect for you, and so on and so forth. The idea of outer physical perfection is somewhat subjective, if it's even realistic or reality even at all. What is perfect for me is not what is perfect for you. I was created and designed perfectly, and I have a mold. This is mine. It is like no one else's. And the same goes for absolutely everybody else out there. That you are perfect the way you are. There's nothing wrong with being healthy and fit. It's actually good for you. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your emotional health. And obviously, it's good for your physical health. But when that becomes the focus and we start to lose the connection that we have with our family and our friends and other people in society around us, when we no longer are training our children up to be kind and compassionate, when they can no longer communicate with us, and we lose understanding in different societies because we're so focused on what our physical appearance is, then there is a problem and we need to reassess. Whether or not social media and or smartphones are the cause of this, I do not know, but I do see the correlation. So what does that mean then? What do we do? Well, the first thing is please, please, please don't look towards social media and the things that you see on television for perfection for yourself. You are your own mold. You are your own perfect mold. So I would encourage you then to not seek the likes of outer physical perfection in places like Facebook and Instagram, because it doesn't exist. It would be better than to seek perfection inward in areas like understanding and compassion and empathy and looking out for one another. Let's look to creating a better legacy for those that are coming after us, one where their focus is on compassion and empathy versus what their physical outer appearance is. Let's create an environment for them where there is a comfort in communication and understanding. We say something in our home when things are looking a little bleak or we're feeling terrible about ourselves. We say, find the rainbow. There is a rainbow somewhere in every situation. It might be hard to find, but it's there. Look for that rainbow. Thank you for listening to me today. I would love it if you would subscribe, share, comment, and follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at That's Not Proper. Feel free to email me with questions, comments, or even things you'd love for me to discuss on here at that'snotpropercorey@gmail.com.